and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make minimal house grooves. So, sort of like talking about how everything works together and just really how to make a track like this work. So, I'm going to be giving away the project file and samples from this video for free in the description, so if you want to check that out, go ahead. It'll also be available on my Patreon if you're a patron, so check there because you'll be able to download it without a download gate. And yeah, let's get started. So, before I show you everything, we're at 121 BPM. This is a loop that you heard in the intro. And I just want to talk a little bit about the theory behind this. So, part of the reason why I like using minimal house to explain this kind of stuff is because, truth be told, it's happening the same way that it is happening in, like, a lot of other styles of house music, like deep house, tech house, whatever kind of word you want to put before the word house. But with minimal house, it's a lot more bare bones and skeletal, so I can really, like, show you on the most basic level how it's operating, and then you can take that and sort of apply it to other styles. So, the first thing we've got going on here is this kick and bass combo, which sounds like this. And the reason why I'm showing you these together is because these are really like the building blocks for this style of music, and really with a lot of styles of house music, or dance music in general, it's really like the low end is where the groove is. Like the low end is the groove, and then the high end and like mid-range, high mid-range, whatever you want to call it, is kind of more like the hype. That's what gives it energy. So yeah, so you can hear this kind of going through here where you hear this kick is really steady. It's just playing 4 on the floor, just quarter notes, and then the bass line is really playing off of that. And that's what's creating the groove, basically. So, I'll show you the notes on the bass line. Basically all we've got going on here is this pretty simple thing. It's playing in F minor, so you can see we have these basic notes here, like these ones. And then I have these notes here, which just kind of add a bit more of, like, I guess you would say, like, interest to it. Those are what give it kind of, like, the flavor. So, all these are is just C and then G sharp, the notes from an F minor chord, because in an F minor chord, you would have F, G sharp, and then C, and then, yeah, I just took the G sharp, put it up an octave, pretty simple there. But yeah, so again, you can really hear how this is playing off of that just really straightforward kick. And that's what's creating the groove. Like, if I turn the bass off, this is a nice intro, but it doesn't really have that, like, same groove that we have when we have the kick and the bass line playing together. So then the next thing that I will show you are sort of like the percussions, which together sound like this. And with the percussion, what I really mean is like the hi-hat and then these little things that I have in this drum rack. And what these are doing is, again, they're really adding to like the hype, and not so much the hype, but like the energy of the track. Like, we do, even though this is a very chill little groove, you can hear when I turn these off, it really doesn't have as much energy. Like, the groove definitely doesn't have as much kind of power as it does when I have these in here. So that's what these are doing, and that's why these are important and kind of like what you need to have in mind when you're making them. Because I feel like a lot of times, I'm definitely guilty of this as well, especially like when I was early on in producing, and didn't really know that much. It's like a lot of times when you're like making a track, you think, okay, I need some percussion, so let me add the percussion, and just kind of adding it with the intent of adding percussion, which isn't really what you want to do. Like, especially with minimal house, and really with like a lot of styles of dance music, you don't want to just have it just to have percussion. You have this percussion in here because it's sort of like helping the beat and helping the track go along, and it's helping with the groove. And so that's kind of like the mentality here. Like, when I programmed in these, for example, you can hear they kind of follow like what the bass is doing. Like, we have like the first half of the pattern, this part, which is sort of a little bit more chill, and then it goes up to this higher note in the second half. And you can hear that, yeah, the percussion is pretty much following that. Like, it has this sort of A and then B sort of pattern like that. So, you know, it's these kind of little subtle things that you do, like when you're just programming these, that really make the difference. Like, again, I program these not just for the sake of having percussion in there, but for the sake of really helping the groove and just making it all kind of flow together, a bit more. And then with the hi-hat, that one's pretty simple. Obviously, it's just playing on the upbeats, but that does add a bit to it, because that's what's really in that like high end. So it's definitely adding to the energy of the beat. Now, another thing I can talk about here is like this delay on the hi-hat and this drum rack here. You can see I've got a little bit of echo on the hi-hat. It's playing on the upbeats, and then I have this little 16th note echo. And then on the drum rack, you can see I also have one. So on that one, it's playing dotted eighth notes. And yeah, these are also pretty important. I feel like these help to kind of like set up the groove as well, because they make everything flow together a lot more smoothly. Like if I turn this off and I turn off the one on the hi-hat, you can hear it's cool, but it definitely doesn't, like I said, have as much flow and kind of like just smoothness, rhythm speaking, I guess, rhythm-wise. Like I said, those really help to make everything kind of flow together. So that's definitely another important thing. Like, using echo to your advantage is kind of good, especially with minimal house and like micro house, I guess you would also say. I hear this technique a lot, and I think that a lot of other producers are kind of picking up on what I'm saying here, which is when you have like this little kind of echo on your hi-hats and on your percussion like that, I feel like it really helps to kind of make it all flow together. Now another thing I'll talk about with the percussion is sort of like the sounds. You can see what we've got here is we've got like these two kind of small, those two kind of like smaller, sort of almost like bongo-esque sounds, and then we have this big one. So that's another thing, just kind of like programming it. I've used the small ones as sort of like the main ones, and then we have this big one sort of going in like that. So, you know, again, you just want to be kind of careful with this style, because you don't want it to be too intense. Like, you don't want to have one thing that's just like if I just did like that, for example, you can hear, I mean, that kind of works, but it's a lot. Like, it's really taking up a lot of space, and it's calling a lot of attention to just this one part of your track. And really, that's not what you want. Like, when you're trying to set up a groove and trying to set up a track to be more than just like a track, you want everything to be really like sort of equally contributing to it, and equally making everything sound more interesting, as opposed to, again, just sort of calling attention to one thing. Like, this isn't a guitar solo, you know? That's another thing, just kind of being tasteful and smart with how you put everything in. And then another thing to talk about here is this clap. This is more like, I guess, sound design, or sort of like sound choice, whatever you want to call it. But having a clap like this, where it's kind of smaller and not so like big, I think also helps. Like, this clap is actually a very important part of the groove. If I turn it off, it totally switches up the feel. Like, it's not nearly the same kind of thing. So that's another thing, just kind of like choosing the right type of sounds. And this is a little bit what I was saying a second ago, like knowing when to use certain types of sounds and knowing when to use other types of sounds. But yeah, just like having kind of like a smaller clap like this really helps. Like, if I try to go crazy with like reverb or something on this, you can hear it just, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't work quite as well. So that's kind of another thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I just wanted to show you guys some techniques. I've gotten a few requests to do this, and you know, I've done a few like minimal house drums videos before and minimal house tutorial videos, but I feel like minimal house is more than just like knowing how to make like the drums, or knowing how to make the bass, or knowing how to do whatever thing. And it's really more about like the overall track and how you're able to set that up and make it all like work really well together. So that's kind of what I was trying to talk about in this video, and sort of show you again a little bit deeper than just like, hey, here's this 8-bar loop that I made, and here is how I made it, I guess. You know, I'm just trying to go a little bit deeper. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know what you think of the little bit of a different type of concept. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you can get the project file and samples from this video for free in the description. Don't miss that. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because they'll be available shortly. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.